Uncle Storytime. Story 1. The Jealous Husband and the Baobab Tree. This is a tale about a jealous man and what befell him. In the days of old, there was a certain man who lived in a town, but his heart was filled with jealousy, and he feared that other men would desire his wives. So he rose up and went deep into the bush, taking his wives with him, hiding them away from the eyes of men. He lived there in isolation until one day the chief of the town heard about him. The chief made a proclamation throughout the land. He who goes and seduces the wife of this jealous man before his very eyes, if he comes to me and proves it, I will give him a horse, a fine cloak, and 100,000 cowries. Now, a certain man heard this proclamation, and he said, I will be the one to lie with his wife before his eyes. So he went off and sought some baobab seeds. He opened them carefully and cleaned out the inside well. Then he sought very small pieces of money and poured them inside each seed. He went to the place where the jealous man lived and gave him these seeds as a present. When the jealous man broke one open, he saw the small money inside. He broke another and found money there too. He broke another, and the same. His eyes grew wide with wonder. My friend, he said, will you not show me where this baobab tree is? The seducer replied, the place where this baobab tree grows is far away. Take me to it, begged the jealous man. It cannot be climbed except by a ladder, said the seducer, and no one knows where it is save me. The jealous man continued to entreat him, his heart consumed with greed. At last, the seducer said, let us go. I will take you there. But if it were not for you, I would not show the place to anyone. So they set out, and the jealous man brought his wife with him. When they came to the baobab tree, the seducer lifted the ladder and placed it against the trunk. He told the woman's husband to climb up. So up he climbed, higher and higher, dreaming of the treasure that awaited him. When he had finished climbing, the seducer lifted away the ladder and carried it somewhere else, setting it down far from the tree. Then he came back. He seized the wife and threw her down. He did what he intended to do, while the woman's husband looked on from above, unable to descend. The jealous man could only shout down at them, I shall spit on you, I shall spit on you. But his words were empty, and his pride was broken, until they had finished what they were doing. Then the seducer went his way. He came to the chief and told him what they had done. The chief gave him his reward, a horse, a cloak, and 100,000 cowries, and added to his gifts. That, said the chief, is the medicine he required. As for the jealous man, his wife, with great difficulty, lifted the ladder and brought it to him. Only then could he descend from the tree. On his return home, he collected all his goods and returned to live in the town. He said, my jealousy dragged me into this. If I remain here in the bush, people will destroy me. Better to live among men than to be ruled by suspicion. And that is the story of the jealous man who learned that pride comes before a fall, and that distrust invites the very betrayal it fears. Story 2. The Games of the Children in the Wind. Before the white man's game of cricket reached our villages, our boys already played the games of their fathers, games that made their arms strong and their hearts brave. They called one of them Iseya, another Imfumba, and yet another Kumbelele. Each game had a song, a lesson, and a spirit within it. When the morning sun climbed the hills, the boys went to the fields with their knobbed sticks and little assegais. They threw them at ant heaps and stones, and the air rang with their laughter and shouts. Chi, ha, 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 izikali zika rarabe, they cried when one of them struck the mark. The weapons of Kakabai. They learned to throw straight, to strike hard, and to shout with pride. The big boys ruled the small ones as it has always been, and every day they grew stronger. When the calves were grazing, the boys raced upon their backs, whistling commands, learning to guide and to follow. One of them always stayed behind to watch the herd, chosen by the drawing of grass stalks, one with a knot at the end. The boy who drew the knot became the herdsman. He never complained, for he knew that his turn to play would come again. When their legs were tired, the boys sat beside the river and made cattle from clay. They molded oxen and calves, each with its own name. Some made puzzles with string and thongs, twisting and tying them in ways that only clever fingers could undo. Others became tricksters, masters of illusion. They would hide a grain of maize in one hand, and though your eyes swore it was there, when they opened the hand, it was gone now behind your ear, now in the dust. The elders would shake their heads and laugh, saying, "That one will be another Lakanyana, the little deceiver." When night fell, the fires burned low, and the children gathered inside the hut to play Isaiah. They sat in a circle. Each one had a small toy, a grain of corn, a pebble, or a bit of wood. The one who began hid his toy in one hand and called out, "I am the Inhlangano." Another would answer, "I am the Ipambo." Then they stretched out their hands, quick as lightning, and opened them together. If the toys met, the Inhlangano laughed and won. If they missed, the Ipambo took the victory. The game went round and round, faster and faster, until only two were left. That part was called the Umnyadala, the winding up. The winner was crowned the wearer of the tiger skin mantle, and the others clapped and cheered. Sometimes the laughter lasted until the rooster crowed. The next day they played Imfumba, the game of hiding and seeking a grain of maize. One would pass his hands around the circle, pretending to place the grain in the other's palms. Sometimes he did, sometimes he did not. The chosen guesser would point, "It is with you." If he was wrong, everyone laughed until their sides hurt. Then came Kumbelele, the game of the song. 3 or 4 children stacked their hands one on top of another, singing, "Kumbelele, Kumbelele, Pangalala." At the last word they pinched sharply, each catching the one above. Their laughter echoed into the night. And when the wind rose, the boys brought out their nodiwu, a flat piece of wood tied to a thong. They spun it in circles above their heads until it sang with a voice like a spirit in the hills. The old women warned them, "Do not play with the nodiwu when the wind is sleeping. If you do, you will wake it, and the storm will come." The boys only grinned because they loved the sound of the wind when it called them to play. So you see, my children, our games were not only for joy. They taught skill, strength, patience, and wisdom. In the laughter of the young, the ancestors still danced, and the spirits of the veld still smiled. That is why, when the sun sets behind the mountains and the cattle come home, you can still hear the faint echo of their cries. Chi, ha, 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 izikali zikararabe. The weapons of Kachabai still fly in the air.